And I do that, and we're up and going. Hi, everybody. It's Dan from the Outdoor Trade Show Network. It's Sunday night. It's time for We Care You Matter. And tonight, I have a dear friend of mine, Chad Peterson. And what I want to do or introduce or let everybody know is that, well, Chad, say hi. Say hi.
Hi, everybody. Chad here.
Is that Chad, I've known you since you were a little kid, and you had bullets in your pocket before you were in kindergarten. You had to have a bullet. You couldn't be anywhere without a bullet in your pocket. So from there, firearms and guns have been, there's not much that you don't know. Whenever you're the guy that I go to when I got questions or when I find something that's really neat, it's like, Chad, I saw this, or Chad, I saw that. And you're like, oh yeah, but there's even more, there's something even better than that out there. So, and I try to explain to people, I'm not an expert when it comes to firearms, not even close. I'm fascinated by them. I think it's amazing what these engineers do, and the technology today is mind-boggling to me.
Yes.
As to what goes on with these guys and what they're capable of doing with machining and with 3D and with the SCADs and the computers, and these guys are amazing what they can do. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Chad. I'm going to let you, I got some playing around to do with this here. We got that load comments there. I'm kind of learning a bunch of stuff, but Chad, just let everybody know. And what I guess, if you got some questions, I can have Chad now come anytime. Another thing I want to explain to everybody is this. Our website's going to be up here pretty soon, and then we're going to be able to provide all these products, and it has to do with fishing and kayaking and all the other things, but also firearms, and we're going to be able to talk about them, and then we're going to be able to, you can go to the manufacturer and buy them with discounts and pricing, and that's part of what Carlos and Joe and the guys are putting together is that. But Chad, go ahead, introduce yourself. You got a bunch of stuff you wanted to talk about, some new stuff that's out there that people should see.
Well, my name's Chad Peterson, and I'm basically, I'm not an expert. I've just been shooting my whole life and been around guns my whole life. I like to collect guns. I like to shoot guns. There's a lot of neat products out there. I think some of the stuff that's come out in the last couple of years is, because of the downturn in firearm sales and whatnot, and the political climate where it went to, made a lot of these companies really start to produce some neat stuff that is stuff that we're looking for. Sometimes it's not stuff we're looking for, and then it just shows up, and it's pretty good stuff. The one thing that's been irking me a lot in the last couple of years, I've been shooting a lot of precision, some long range stuff, is the triggers that are out there, and finding the right trigger, whether it's for an AR platform, the tried and true with the bolt gun precision shooters is, the Jewels and the Timneys are a custom done trigger. With the ARs is pretty much a Lego platform, and they want to be able to drop it in. Like I said, there's just a lot of good stuff out there, and some of these triggers, they're pricey. The technology's there, and they've got them to work very, very well. One thing I see with a lot of the AR platforms, though, is the different types of triggers that people are using in the multi-gun aspect. And then when the precision rifle aspect started to take over, there wasn't a ton of lightweight triggers for long range. I do a lot of 500 meter shooting. I have a gun that I specifically built for that. And the one trigger that I would recommend or use if I were in the multi-gun situation, or the 3-gun, is, you've got your tried and trues, and you've got all the Geisleys and stuff, but the Tac-On 3MR, I run it in this, it's a registered short barrel rifle. It has a 3.5 pound, it's clean, and then in the second stage, in the third position, it'll run 4.5 pound. But what this trigger allows to happen is that when the rifle recycles, it physically will push the trigger forward on its third set. So you don't have to wait for it to release. It'll physically push its way forward. Now, if you ride the trigger really hard, you have to be a little light on it. But it does perform very, very well. Great trigger for an instance like that. In the other mode, I actually have hunted with this firearm. So some people call these types of guns whatever they want to call them. I deer hunt with this in southern and northern Wisconsin. It's basically... It's 300 blackout. It's like shooting a 30-30, and the trigger works very well for that. It's not too light. It's not too stiff. It's got a big wide trigger bow if you're wearing gloves, so it works great. In the precision field, though, the the biggest problem we had, and we've got some guys at our club that, we were doing our own triggers because we just couldn't find anything. When you're shooting in the 500-meter range, I mean, a 3.5-pound trigger doesn't help you any, when you're trying to shoot small groups.
Wow.
And as far as that goes, I think it was Jard made a trigger. It was a 1.5 pound. It wasn't a complete trigger pack. I think they've been discontinued because after so many rounds, you started to get double fires. Okay. They were just not
so light.
Yeah, and they, as the pin wear in and the coating wears off, you start to get this little bit of play in between them. So any of those variables can really, on a semi-auto, it resets. So if it's very light, just the recoil of the gun and bumping it, or if you ride the trigger, it'll go off again. You'll get double fires. And it's not that the gun's malfunctioning. Your finger can only move out of the way so fast. Okay. Is the real reason.
And you got so many lowers, so many different lowers that are made, and to get that figure, to get that trigger to fit precisely into all the different lowers, you and I talked about how many different manufacturers there are.
And the mil spec, as far as mil spec, pretty much all lowers only say mil spec. This is a Spikes Tactical. I bought it because if I was building a short barrel rifle and paying the tax, I wanted to have a decent rifle. I wanted to build it on a nice thing. Now, that being said, that I use it for hunting, if I did it all over again, it would be the lightest weight stuff I could because I hate carrying all that stuff in the woods.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
And there's some really light stuff
because, it looks small, but it still weighs 7 pounds.
Yeah, when I picked it up,
it's not the lightest thing in the world.
Right.
As far as that goes, but it's reliable. It works. I do all my own hand loads and stuff when I shoot these. So as far as in the 300 blackout range, ammo's expensive. It's hard to find. Mm-hmm. It's not hard to get into reloading. It really isn't.
What you using for a sight there, Chad?
I run the sight marks, and I get guff from guys about that. Why aren't you running this? Why aren't you running that? And the sights, if we want to get into that, I can tell you right now, I don't care how much it costs. In a rainy, slushy, snowy environment, they're all terrible. Yeah. They fill up with snow. They don't work very well. And then, backup sights, goods and bads of them. I've got a pretty cheap set on another upper that I have a push button. They lock. You can still see there's twigs in here. I was in Lima Marsh area deer hunting. I was back in the sticks, and I popped this off because it was real close range. Walking through, now my sights fold down all the time. Yeah. So, there's ups and downs to all of it, and you really got to look at the parts, not as far as a cool factor or going, hey, this is the newest, baddest thing on the block, is what you're going to use it for. Yeah. Really has to come down to how you're going to use it, what your intentions are. It's like I say with the Geisley triggers, great triggers. I'm not going into battle tomorrow, so I don't need a battle-proven trigger.
Well, and I asked you if you ever saw CMC triggers, and you said no, you had to look them up.
I looked them up.
And Dave, who's we're probably going to have doing a broadcast with us, is he's one of the main guys over there. He's a friend of Carlos's, and there's so many different companies, and I, when I talk to Dave, CMC Triggers makes make a really nice product. Yeah. I mean, that's.
I think a lot of them are all because they're all really in the same price range. When you get into a cartridge type trigger, I think a lot of it really comes down to they offer them with a straight shoe or this or that. When you get into a lot of these cartridge type, you can order it with a straight shoe or a slight curve or more curve or whatever you want. Great if you're multi-gun. Great, for hunting if you know what trigger you want to use. I like a slight curve in all my triggers. I'm used to shooting revolvers, this and that, so I try and keep some consistency between all the different firearms that I use. So when I looked at long-range precision triggers, the one thing that got me is shooting off a bench, and I don't shoot off bags. I like bipods.
Okay.
I like to keep it. A lot of these guys, they got their big sleds out. That's all great, this and that. But practical use, if I go out and buddy might say, hey, come on out to my range. I got 1,000 yards. And he's got a picnic table. I don't have all that stuff, unless I carry it all with me.
Right.
So when it comes into long-range guns with the trigger kits and the packs and the different triggers that are out there, the one I preferred, and I looked and I looked and I looked, and I ended up going with the Timney.
Okay.
And the Timney, this is the Calviny, let me grab this here, the Calviny League. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that even though I had my own trigger that I'd done and the weight was pretty good, I couldn't put the trigger where I wanted it for where I want my finger to sit. When I'm sitting and I'm on the bench and I have this gun sat there, I need to know I want it specifically to where my hand fits that perfectly. I have to try and take out all of the variables I can, because the only thing this gun ever gets used for is bench shooting. That's all I built it for.
Okay, I'll be darned.
Specifically.
Specifically, what caliber is this?
This is a 6.5 Grendel.
A 6.5. Okay.
And with the loads I've been doing with an
And
18-inch barrel.
What trigger is that you got on this one?
That's the Timney.
Timney. Okay,
Calvin
that's
Elite.
the Timney you were talking about. Okay.
I run a Vortex Golden Eagle. It's a 60 power scope. Works very well at 500 meters. I can see bullet holes.
Wow.
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 And the price is reasonable. And I think they probably, I haven't talked to them or anything on it. It's really light. I mean, we got it and we had to open the box, make sure there was something in the box. And I think maybe
light.
they were pushing it towards the F-class shooters, because
Okay.
you do have a weight limit. And up in
gotcha.
Lodi, I think they do a lot of F-class at 1,000 yards.
Okay.
This was not built for 1,000 yards. We have a 500 meter range at our club, and I built it for that.
And you spend a lot of time at the club. And with the guys that are over there.
I shoot every Wednesday.
You spend a lot of time in the club. That's what I wanted to kind of convey with everybody is this. I wanted to introduce Chad and let you know that if you have questions or you have a product that we should know about, that's what we're here for. You want to learn about new stuff.
Yeah, I like new stuff.
And you would
I
also,
love new stuff.
and you would like to share with everybody what you're doing.
Yeah.
And what the guys down at the club are doing and what you guys are using down there. So that's kind of what I wanted to do today, was introduce Chad to everybody and say, here, I'm not a firearms expert by any, I'm not even close to it. But I know you are. You're
I'm not an
pretty good.
expert.
Well,
This is a hobby, but
It's
it flows over into more of a passion than a hobby. Even.
yes.
I mean,
you're pretty, you know, I always have to ask Chad, what about this? Chad, what about that? I always got to be asking Chad.
I mean, I guess it's one of those things. There isn't enough money in the world to get me away from my. I mean,
Yes.
and I'm not a specific AR type. I didn't own one of these up until the first one was my little short barrel rifle, and I thought, why? Do I really? Because I didn't think that they would be that accurate. And the best group I've shot at 500 meters is 2¼ inches with this gun. And I was begging and hoping and praying I could get a 3-inch group.
Wow.
And last week, 2 weeks ago, I shot a 2.5.
Wow.
But I just changed the trigger. I'm getting used to it. So the gun, but like I say, a lot of this gun, and as far as this firearm goes, is that it's just an Anderson blemish lower. It's this rail. I'm sorry, it's not a Yankee Hill. It's an eBay.
Okay.
But this is an Alex Pro barrel. It's a 5. I mean, the barrel and the bolt are matched. I mean, that's where I think that's where a lot of the accuracy.
And that's what you could talk to people about. Yeah. Those are things I have no clue. Do you know last week I said Latham? I didn't even say Lapua. Okay,
Lapua?
That's how much I don't even know. So
Lapua makes nice
I'm
stuff.
like, oh my god, I was so embarrassed about that. It's like, I'm not an expert. Everybody, that's kind of what I want to
And
convey.
it's with any firearm. I mean, you could go and buy an off-the-shelf firearm and say, oh, it shoots like this. And if you spent the time and you got into basic reloading and spent the time, you could probably develop a load for that firearm that may shoot amazing.
Take a Remington 700.
Some of them shoot really good, some of them don't,
Yeah.
right out of the box.
Right out of the box.
They're like with anything. They have a spec with what they have to stay in.
Yes, exactly.
And I look at it like this. If the specs are all kind of in the middle, hey, you probably got a winner. If they're all on the far end of bad, you probably don't.
Right.
And that's the reality.
Right.
It's kind of like the old national match military rifles. Let's take the best parts out of all of them and put them in one gun. And now you've got a really good military rifle.
Right.
So, same theory.
But this stuff today, and like I was trying to, I'm amazed. I go to that show and I walk around there, and they have no clue that when I walk in the booth, that I just want to shake their hand because what they do is amazing. I mean, they build this stuff that's incredible. They make amazing products, and I'm fascinated with all this. Don't know a whole lot, but fascinated. And when I talk to you, you know 10 times more than
and with this and a lot of these companies that are involved with a lot of stuff in the U.S. companies like Magpul, I mean, they stand behind the
Oh,
firearms.
they're great
rights.
people.
So
we talked to them at the show.
and
There's not nicer
their
people
stuff
than the
works.
Magpul.
I
The
mean,
Magpul people are great.
And I mean, when you can buy a magazine for $10, $11 and it works as good as a Glock mag forever, I mean, I've had mags for this one for 3 years that are loaded. I'll take them, throw them in the gun at the range, and I don't have any problems. I mean, they work.
Empty the clip. Boom.
They work phenomenal.
They work phenomenal.
And to get to that point where it's like, oh, you can buy some of these parts and they're affordable. I mean, there is some nice stuff, like with this one, it's got a Yankee Hill front on it. That wasn't cheap.
Right.
But the machining on it is. I bought it because
Right.
it was cool looking. I didn't.
Well,
it didn't really come down to functionality.
That's another thing. A lot of it is pretty cool looking stuff that these guys are making. And
this, I didn't
it
care
works.
what it looked like.
And it
I needed
works.
it to do what I needed
Precise.
to do.
You needed precision.
I wouldn't care if it was pink, blue, green. It doesn't matter. I don't.
Right.
It has no effect on the performance of it.
Right.
And that's really what I looked at with this. Where with the little shorty, I says, hey, if I can shoot inch and a half at 100 yards, it's got a black hole barrel in it. It does. I mean, this gun, it shoots phenomenal.
And another one, like you don't care what color it is, you go to Cerakote. I love the Cerakote people. I go into their booth all the time and talk to them, and it's amazing what they have and what they can do.
I actually did some Cerakoting on a couple of 1911 slides for that, because I've made a couple of different slides for it in different calibers, a little Rock Island there, and I says, what's going to be close enough to this? And he says this, and they were great people. And I talked to him on the phone. I says, now, if you guys sold a variety pack that was enough to do one gun, say 4 colors, and you broke the price down better, because I still have this full bottle of Cerakote that I'm never going to use again probably, because I'm not a gunsmith. I don't do it for a living. It was my own little personal project. It would be neat to see him come up with this little pre-packaged type little eyedropper if you want it satin blue.
Maybe we'll talk to Cerakote about that.
And get
Maybe
something
we'll
like
talk
that
to
to
them
where, hey,
about
I
that.
want to do an AR, but I don't want to buy a quart of everything.
Maybe we need to talk to them about that.
I want a little package so I can do one firearm.
Okay.
Because
And you wouldn't mind paying a little extra.
no, I don't, because it's convenient.
Yeah.
It's the convenience thing. Hey, it's convenient. It's like buying some of these rails. Some rails you buy the rail, then you got to get the right barrel nut. Well, why doesn't it just come with the right barrel nut? I don't care if it costs more. It's you know what I mean.
Well, let's do this. That's part of what I want to do with this Outdoor Trade Show Network. Is we can do that. We can call the company up and talk to them and say, hey, or if somebody else out there has a concern or they have something that we need to know about, same thing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. That's what we're here to do. That's what I want to do here is we want to talk about products. We want to show products. And maybe we can get a hold of some of these companies and say, hey, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? It'd make it easier for everybody.
I mean, there are some of the companies are. I mean, if you look at like was it Bear Creek and Palmetto State, you basically buy the whole gun and it's just not put together.
Yeah.
It's like a kit,
Palmetto, I like those guys. Those are good people over there. You can buy the whole thing and put it all together yourself.
And that's what makes it great. Now, the only mention of stuff like that, if you are ever going to build your own AR, make sure you have a spare pins, and because I've been working with guns a long time, and I have a clean room. You could have a bare white sterile room, and you will still lose a detent. It will disappear. It's like a 10 millimeter socket, it's just always gone.
This. I'm going to do this with everybody. This is Anderson Manufacturing.
Yep, and
we see those. They're in Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
They're the nicest group of guys that you
have good
ever
product.
wanted to talk to. So I'm going to do this, everybody. I'm going to show you this, and that is Anderson Manufacturing, and look them up. They are. You talk about good people.
Yeah,
these guys are the best. I want to talk to them about what they're doing. They build some really nice stuff.
Yeah.
They do a great job, and they're nice guys.
I've got different AR receivers, and I've got the spikes and stuff. As far as they're all pretty much,
Right.
That's $300. This thing was, I think I paid $49.99 for
I
it.
know.
And there's no difference between, they work good. And like what this kit says, this oops kit, because you're going to have an oops.
I like that. Oops kit. I never heard of that.
One of those is going to disappear on
Miscellaneous
you.
lower parts.
Yeah.
Oops kit.
Yeah.
That's a new one.
It's mainly the detent and detent springs, because they do go flying. Now, there are a couple companies out that have like the rear detent where they come, you buy it, it's a little kit. It comes with a tap. And it comes with an Allen, so you can actually capture that spring in there, so you can take the back off without having it disappear on you. Because
we were in a booth with the guys out of New York. They had Kinshot, and it's a buffer that you put in there that absorbs a lot of that. And I was like, I was looking at it. It's like, this is so neat that somebody came up with all this. But it was Kinshot was the name of the company.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there.
Yeah, and then I found out there's a few of those guys.
And the reason is you look at the multi-gun and this and that. Like when I run a 22 upper on my short barrel, I shoot it on the cowboy action range because you can't, you can no lead only, this and that. But the less recoil you have, the faster you can get back on target. So I mean, it's that thing where 223s don't recoil that much, anyways. But still, any little bit of muzzle rise takes more time to get back on target. And when you're under the clock, that's every second counts.
So what do you got over there? You got we gonna get rid of it? We gonna talk about handgun? Are you still on triggers, or what are we gonna talk about now?
We can stay on a little bit of the trigger stuff, as far as that goes. I mean, that's like I say, this is the one thing that I like to keep consistency across my triggers. I like a single stage trigger, period. And that's because I grew up shooting a lot of revolvers.
Okay, how many different triggers can you buy? What's out there as far as triggers go? I know. I that's a loaded question. I'm not going to hook you on that one.
Well, when it comes down to like AR, even Remington 700 type stuff, a lot. I mean, and every time
they built it.
Yeah, and every time one goes away, another one pops up.
Gotcha.
Basically, with the 1911s, this is one of the guns that you can get the best trigger. Period. Mm-hmm.
Now, who would you say makes the best trigger for a 1911?
A competent gunsmith.
Okay, I know.
They really,
But in your opinion?
In my opinion, I basically run a Wilson Combat. A Wilson Combat Sear. This is a fusion trigger that I actually modified, and I like the fusion because the trigger bow, the sides are cut back, so there's less riding on the inside of the frame. Because you have all these friction points in one of these, and everything's got to move together to make it work. So it isn't just a trigger; it's a trigger sear. There's like 4 different parts connected with that, and there's a set of finger springs in there, and all that stuff has to be tuned just right for it to function properly and maintain safe. So so the trigger doesn't go off when you pull the trigger without depressing the. There's just a lot of different things with a trigger. And on a 1911, a trigger should be like glass. It should always be like glass. If it's not like glass, you go and you buy a whatever Remington. You buy something out of I don't even care if it's a Sig Sauer. And you go to Gander or wherever you buy it from, a sport shop, sporting goods store. The trigger's not going to be 3.5 pounds and break like glass. It's not going to happen. Now you buy a less rare Wilson Combat, it's probably gonna, but you pay for that because time goes into it. It isn't something that they can go, I made this part, it's going to fit in here, because it's not like an AR where it's either 2 or 3 pieces. I mean, there's literally like 6 different things that have to work in there for that trigger to be that good.
That precise.
Yes, and all those things have to fit exactly right for it to work like that and maintain that it's safe.
And I know for a fact you have spent night after night after night, year after year getting this all fine-tuned right down to,
this trigger, basically, I went with the Wilson Combat Sear, their bulletproof stuff, because it's bulletproof. Gotcha. Bottom line. The Fusion, I like the trigger style better. I did a Fusion hammer. I like the style a little bit better. It had a neat, different type of battle axe type thing to it.
Gotcha.
I wasn't going to do a whole lot because it's just a Rock Island, but
still they're good guns.
Well, it came as a 22 TCM 9mm, which I thought was neat. And another guy at the club had one. I got to have one of those. So I found one used on Arms List, and I met the guy, and turned out he's a police officer I bought it from.
Yeah.
And then I proceeded. Sig Sauer had some barrels on CDNN, another good bargain place to look for overstock stuff. I bought a 38 Super barrel, fitted that into the 9mm slide.
Nice.
Got that all running good.
I have no clue what you're talking about here. Just so you know, that's why I got you here. Okay.
So basically, and then I bought a 45 slide for it. And then it was a bull barrel only slide and Fusion arms. And it's funny because they sell lots on eBay, but they're a U.S. company. Really nice.
Okay.
This barrel is it is phenomenal. The accuracy of this gun, it is I'm impressed.
Okay.
I'm really impressed with it.
Well,
So it's one of those things to where it's fun to shoot. I kept the trigger in this, breaks like glass. I kept it about 3.5 pounds for one. If I did want to shoot it in a precision pistol, I'm within the rules.
you're set up.
But then I do carry this sometimes, so I want to make sure that the trigger's not too
You're set
light.
to go. Gotcha.
But it's one of those things. It's a neat gun. The G10 grips. When whoever came out with these, they need to make a G10 grip for an AR. They really do a wraparound full G10.
We can make those suggestions. We can.
They work.
Let's write this all down.
They
Write
work,
it down. Write it down. We'll get with these people.
They work very well. They grip. I mean, the gun doesn't move around in your hand. And actually, this with 9mm, my wife loves this gun.
The Hogue guys.
Loves to shoot
Carlos,
this
there
gun.
you go. You're always talking with the guys at Hogue, so that's a suggestion, and maybe or the Magpul. We'll see the Magpul people. So
Well, even like Hogue, if they made a little bit harder rubber grip that was machined like this, so it had little bumpies on it,
Carlos?
instead of the little where it was almost milled in like the G10, it'd be a solid thing. They'd really have something there.
okay.
And, 90, I'd say probably 80-90%. If you don't have a good grip on your gun, you're not gonna. You're not gonna.
It's not your gun. It's not your gun.
Yeah. It has to fit.
Okay.
And that's the other thing with people that buy different types of firearms and stuff. It's like, oh, this one's cool. A buddy of mine has it. Well, have you shot it? No.
It's not your gun.
No,
you gotta have your gun.
And there are ranges in gun stores. There's a few of them in Wisconsin to where
Yep.
if you're not sure, you can go rent a gun. You can try it out. They'll help you out. They'll be more than happy to help you out and find something that fits you. You know. If
I
you're
got
just
some
getting
real
into
good
it.
friends in Wisconsin Dells, DEZ Tactical. They're in Baraboo right now. They're building a new gun shop with a range inside.
Really?
And they make a lot of their own parts, so we're going to do quite a bit with them. I guess where I'm kind of going with all this is this, everybody, is that once the website is up and running, I just kind of want to introduce Chad and let you know that you know what you're talking about when it comes to firearms.
Well,
we can spend hours.
I love talking about guns.
And I don't know if everybody figured this out. I like baiting him. I like asking questions that I know you'll talk about an hour about. Yeah. So
I can't help it.
yes. So with that, did we kind of cover? I'd like to have you back. I'd like to have you where you and I can talk, or if people have questions. That's the other one. What I'd like to do is this. If you have questions, or you want us to find out something, or you got questions or concerns, or want to know something, I'll get with Chad. Get with us here.
Yep.
That's why we're doing this. We want to help people.
There is, and that's something,
And I want to learn too.
Yeah. I mean, I tell my wife this, and anybody else is like, well, if you want to do a search, there's a lot of good information on the internet.
Right.
But there's also a lot of, you got to weed through it. And if you don't know what you're weeding through to start with in the first place, it really makes it tough.
That's what we're doing here. We want to be a spot. We don't want to be, we just want to be an information hub. But here's another one. I want to share this. And you and I talked to it earlier. When I did the description, I put nothing in there about firearms.
Yep.
I had nothing in there because I know right now I'm really treading on some thin whatever here with
and
going
I talked
on
to you
Facebook
about that. You
and talking about firearms. And I know YouTube and all those platforms, the day is going to come, you're not going to see firearms.
Yeah.
Which
would be really sad.
Which would be sad. But that's why we're building, and that's why we're going through what we're going through right now with the Outdoor Trade Show Network, is you'll be able to find all the information, and that's why I want to be unbiased.
Yeah.
I want to be unbiased. I just want to be an information hub. All we want to do is get as much information about as many products as we can in a very fair. I told Carlos, one thing, we want to be nice and we want to do what's right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we want to do here. So if you got information you would like us to know, you got something you want us to find for you, that's what I'm doing this for. So with that, I wanted to introduce Chad and let everybody know that he does know a lot about firearms.
I try. I enjoy them more than anything, and the aesthetics and the artwork. I collect. I have some. I've never fired, and I can't bring myself to do it.
I'd like to have you back, and once we get going on the website, have you back. You could kind of be my firearms guy here, and like I said, I just wanted to introduce Chad tonight. That was my mission. So with that, are we done? Do we get everything covered?
You will never.
have you back
You'll
whenever-
never get everything
I
covered.
know.
By the time you talk about 10 new things, there's 100 new ones popping up.
And that's what I want to do. That's why this website and what we're going to do with the TV channel and the website. And everybody, I want to share this with you. We've had a lot of hurdles because firearms are part of this. People run from us real fast. They want nothing to do with us. They love the idea of the Outdoor Trade Show Network. They love the fishing and the kayaking and the off-roading. But when the word firearms comes, I hardly get the full word firearms out, and they're gone.
And
They want nothing to do with
I'm
us.
a diehard, and
Yeah,
that's
so
the
and
way
that's
it
as
is.
much to do with the outdoors as everything else is. So
Yes, it is.
we'll go through the hurdles. This is very important to me what we're doing here. So we might get in trouble here tonight with showing guns, but so what? The website's coming here pretty soon. I don't care anymore. We're gonna have our own thing going. So with that, Chad, you want to say goodnight to everybody?
Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.